Right, hello everyone. Yeah, part 3 stream tonight to all the Charles Winans stuff, just to conclude it and summarise what we've learned so far, basically, about him, and to show you the other information that I found about him. And there's some videos of him that we'll watch later, or parts of them, and I'll show you the channel, because there's several videos of him, I think they're from about the 90s. But yeah, talking about art, basically, yeah. The channel's called The Artist. And yeah, so we'll get to that when I start talking. But I'll just say hello to everyone for a minute. Yeah, sorry to hear your news there, Anne, as well. Hope we can take your mind off it for a little while, like you say. Yeah. Yeah, so who's here? Cool, we've got 30 people here. Thanks for coming, everyone. A few people. All the regulars I can see. Right, yeah, and I've done slides here. So basically, yeah, to summarise, whilst I was reading out the first articles where Paul Krasner mentions the Cielo Drive porn, I came across a statement from him about Tex Watson. He said, "I'd been tracking down the path of Charles Winans, an individual in Navy intelligence who had posed as a hippie artist, orchestrating the scenario of violence and witchcraft in meetings with Tex Watson, who then fulfilled the prophecy of this agent provocateur with all that shooting and stabbing. Manson had merely instructed his ladies to go and do whatever Tex told them. So, of course, I had to look into it, because that's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? Yeah. And I found Charles Winans had sued Francis Ford Coppola's magazine for publishing this claim in an article Krasner wrote. And he also sued Rolling Stone magazine for an article Krasner wrote saying the same thing. He settled out of court. So the article I read, he also wrote that in the Berkeley Barb as well, but Winans obviously didn't see that because he didn't sue him for that one. But he sued him twice, publishing it in 2 different places. And May Brussel would have been a witness in the trial, was Rolling Stone. And all these other sources took back what they had said. And even May Brussel said Krasner was irresponsible to publish those claims without more proof. And Krasner even considered pleading insanity, as he was so paranoid while researching it all. And also found out when Winans was in the military, he was in the Air Force, not the Navy. And he only went to the Naval Postgraduate School to work as an illustrator for 3 months as part of a federal assistance program, as his art wasn't selling in Carmel. And I also found considerable proof he actually was and remained an artist and was not just posing as one. And I also read more about Operation Resistance, because if you remember in part 2 there, May Brussel talked about this Operation Resistance. She and her friend were right to be paranoid, as it was all about monitoring the alternative press. May wrote for them, and Louise James published her own subversive newspaper. And the operatives were only supposed to be collecting newspaper articles, however. So, as we know, Winans was short of money, and he was ex-Air Force. Maybe it's possible he was taking part in Operation Resistance, at least, and was spying on the counterculture. And yeah, I've also found videos of him from the 90s where he still advocates for young artists to take drugs. I'll show you this clip in a bit, which he calls mind food. So maybe he was the Candyman Tex went to school from. And yeah, I could find no proof he was responsible for any sort of brainwashing of Tex, though, or that he was orchestrating the scenario of violence and witchcraft behind the murders. Psychiatrists did blame Watson's drug use for the brain damage that caused his behaviour, though. So, in a way, everyone he supplied him with drugs was responsible for his crimes. But yeah. Basically, yeah, it was difficult to back up. Yeah. Oh, yeah, so that's the summary, and I found a document about Project Resistance as well. If you remember in part 2, May Brussel spoke about this and said Charles Winans moved in while this was active. He moved into the house next door to her friend, who then had the strange nervous breakdown. And yeah, this is from the CIA's reading room. Project Resistance. This project involved obtaining clippings of campus newspapers, radical underground publications, and other press media pertaining to campus protests and demonstrations. The activity covered the period from December 1967 through June 1973 and was both initiated and approved by the DDS. It was intended to provide information relative to potential threats to agency personnel, installations and operations, and was initiated upon the specific observation of the DDS that various campus radical groups had begun to develop an alarming degree of organisation and coordination. The OS field officers were given responsibility for collection. The instructions were to field at the inception of the project, was reiterated in 1971, where the existing assets were to be utilised and no attempts were to be made to recruit informants or sources in support of the endeavour. The project generated voluminous information, none of which was transmitted outside the agency. There is no indication that any threat was surfaced as a result of the project. The project was terminated in June 1973. Although OS files do not document the reason for termination, it seems likely it was concluded that either the perceived threat had diminished or the project was unproductive. So yeah, that's what Operation Resistance actually was. So I think maybe he took part in that, but that was the only thing really. Yeah, it said that Tex was the one that was actually teaching them all the combat stuff, isn't it? So it's interesting, yeah. But lots of bikers and that were also military veterans, weren't they? He could have learned that from a lot of people. Listening to Revolution Blues, yeah, that's the song Neil Young wrote about Manson, isn't it? Yeah. Dave Crosby didn't want to play it because he thought it was bad karma, yeah. 17th of January 1975, a low point in popular music, was it? What came out then? Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're a compassionate group. Are you in the Facebook group or anything as well? And there's a subreddit, though that's not really very active at the moment. There's 40 members there now, and I'm sure people will start posting soon. The Facebook group is more active. But yeah, thanks for coming anyway. All my viewers help. Like I said, these subjects are, yeah. Tex played football. I wonder if he was a cheap shot artist. I don't know. Oh, I can't remember what position he played. I looked into it as well. I forgot. Yeah, but no, I don't know what he did. That's contact sport, isn't it? But yeah, about Francis Winans anyway. Yeah, and like I say, there's articles about his art as well that I could read out. I'm going to read out parts of them, and like I say, these videos of him that exist. But yeah, obviously watch part 1 and 2 if you haven't seen them already. Yes, when Mae Brussel talks about what happens to Louise James, and she was convinced that someone had drugged her and done that to her, and yeah, she had a bizarre nervous breakdown by the sound of things. Yeah. Yeah, and like I say, well, Krasner made a mistake publishing the claims that because that was a really bold claim, and even Mae Brussel said he was foolish to do that. But yeah, Project Resistance, I think it's plausible he could have been collecting newspaper articles. And also, yeah, the Candyman, that's the more compelling thing as well, because Tex, obviously in that Substack article, he talks about or Tex goes up to get drugs from someone who he just calls the Candyman, doesn't he? Like I say, I'll move on to, yeah. I don't know if you even need to read these out, or just leave them on the screen. If people want to read them, they can. But yeah, this is just more evidence. This is from around 1970. Yeah, February 11th, 1970, these are dated. And yeah, articles about his art shows, basically. And I found loads of newspapers advertising his art shows and stuff like that. And stuff saying he did Punch and Judy shows. So yeah, which explains a video I'll show you in a bit, yeah. About Punch and Judy. Yeah, he's just looking at the date on the Project Resistance thing. That if I switch back to that, it says the 17th of January 1975. That's when this memo was dated. He also bought us the Sex Pistols and Rock and Roll was saved. Like I say, yeah, the videos of him are quite interesting. But I'll try and get to that now, actually. Yeah, but just listen to what he says here. Thinking about whether it could have been a drug pusher in the past.
What kind of message would you have for aspiring artists to get them started and get them interested in art?
Brain food. Smart drugs would help. A lot of smart drugs. Oh, indeed, born well connected. I think that would help more than anything.
How much does art school help an artist learn how to do art?
Quite a bit, actually, in my case, because I went there and found out that the ones that usually made the best grade, the best, were well connected and well born, and I might add, well bred, well educated. However, they seem to have a difficulty in approaching a blank canvas with anything except kind of a white-lipped terror. They were always so afraid people would knock them off and know that they weren't having.
And I said, but basically, yeah, when he's asked, what advice do you have for young artists? He says, take drugs, basically. that was his only answer. Take brain food, smart drugs. He doesn't name the specific drugs, does he? Yeah. Yeah, but this is what he looks like. I think these are dated about 1995, something like that. The channel's called The Artist. And yeah, there's a few videos of him. There's one of him when he's older than this as well. And there's another one, the Puppets one. I'll show that one. And like I said, this video is much longer. I just wanted to show you that little snippet of it. Bad moment to have paused it as well for him, isn't it? Unfortunate. But yeah, it's a much longer interview where he's discussing art, basically. So yeah. But like, there's lots of evidence that he was an artist and that they're wrong about him posing as an artist and then just leaving being an artist. In his obituary, he says, he worked with loads of rock stars as well, and he was famous for doing mosaics. There's a lot of evidence that he really was an artist. And this one's only a minute long. On the screen, yes. And these are Punch and Judy puppets. And they're really traditional Punch and Judy puppets as well. The sound is just that bad.
Yeah, there he is. Got a moose. Will you do the fandango? Chris did a slight profile. Can you see that? I think Ludo, come here.
Then you have this big Doberman guard dog. Yeah, let me read you this. The one on the right here, yeah. For puppeteering, Summer Lark drew on the talents of Mr. and Mrs. Charles Francis Winans of Pacific Grove. The Winans are known on the peninsula for their Punch and Judy performances, helped children make puppets and marionettes, and produce their own show, which was judged by Dick Vreeland of Monterey. As an added treat, the participants went to a performance of Sound of Music at the Studio Theatre in Carmel. And these are from like local newspapers around Carmel. And this is about an article about some event, but yeah, it shows that him and his wife, that's how he ended up making these Punch and Judy puppets. Hmm. Yeah, Punch and Judy were. A lot of people think Punch and Judy look creepy. Yeah, they were scary. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Well, the original plot of the Punch and Judy show is very violent. Yeah. If I remember rightly, he throws the baby down the stairs. That's the first thing he does. That's terrible. And he beats his wife. And then a crocodile comes and tries to steal his sausages, and he beats him too. And then a policeman turns up and beats Mr. Punch. And that's the end of the show. And that was children's entertainment in Victorian times, apparently. You recorded a song called Hydroelectric Puppet Man. Wow. Do you upload music to your channel? I'll have to look at your channel. Is your music on there? Yeah, no, so there's these various other articles about his shows and lots of adverts for his shows around this town, Carmel, their local newspaper, basically. I found them all on archive.org. I couldn't find them again quickly when I was searching before the show, but if you can find them, they all show up. Oh, that'd be interesting, yeah. And they did a show about Sid Nancy. It's always an interesting story. Yeah. That's just your band that's on YouTube, is that alright? Have a look. Yeah, well, like I say, I was just summarising the rest of the stuff that I did about this guy anyway. And I wanted to show some of the videos of him, obviously. And there's a couple of interviews with him, basically, but he just talks about art. But I just found that one thing he said when he's asked what advice would he give young artists, he tells them drugs, basically. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And he looks like he's done a lot of drugs. I don't know if there's a joints he's smoking in the video even. I think they're possibly joints he's smoking even. So, yeah. He possibly was the Candyman guy. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way to do it. It's like, yeah, Mr. Punch says that's his catchphrase, isn't it? After he's chucked his baby down the stairs and beat his wife. That's the way to do it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, decapitate guys used to beat each other. It's hilarious in British comedy. For a long time it was, yeah. Couples beating each other up. Yeah. Yeah, well, that was one of Sebring's names. But no, in the last stream, I'm not sure if it was part 1 or part 2 I read that out in, but in his testimony, Tex talks about going out of the state, going somewhere else to get drugs from someone he just calls the Candyman. And I don't think it is Tex. I think it was Jay. It's not Jay, no. But the Substack article I read out suggests that, yeah, Charles Winans was possibly the Candyman. And seeing that him make that comment about drugs makes me think, yes. Oh, and everyone is just arriving now. No, that's the thing. Where did he learn the combat stuff? Well, he could have learned it off anyone, couldn't he, as well? Because there was all the bikers around Spahn Ranch and that. And a lot of them would have been ex-military veterans. So it's hard to say, isn't it, where he learned it, yeah. Yeah. Well, he does have major health problems. Well, it was only for a very short period as well, though, wasn't it? It was only for a couple of years. And then he's, like, probably been mostly clean, hasn't he? Ever since. So it wasn't like for a long term, yeah. Yes, and be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Where's the graphic? I'll have text. Go on, because it's a text stream. There you go. Yes, like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like I say, because it all helps. Trying to get to, 1,400 subscribers. I'm nearly there. I need about 15 more. Yeah, so there's this article here. The Aardvark Gallery to exhibit the works of Francis Winans. The Aardvark, Carmel Valley's unique art gallery in Bandelli Square, will preview its February show and opening party, to which the general public is invited this Friday evening, January the 30th, from 6 to 8 p.m. New gallery goers to this area. The artist is Charles Francis Winans, a 30-year-old former resident of the Valley, now living in Pacific Grove, who has gained an international reputation as a graphic designer and illustrator through his work with Mercury Records and various publications, including the Kaiser Aluminium News Children. Yeah, that is definitely Aluminium News. Children of Change issue. The Aardvark presentation will mark Winans' first public one-man show in California, although his work has been exhibited to private organizations and in special showings at museum art events, and is represented in the permanent collection at the Kaiser Center in Oakland. The current showing includes acrylics, watercolors, drawings, and reproductions. So yeah, that was one of his exhibits being announced. And it says, yeah, he worked with Mercury Records. And I think I read somewhere else that it's light shows that he did. But he probably did album covers as well. And someone asked earlier, has anyone seen his art? Yeah, there's quite a few examples of his art. In fact, someone sent me one on Facebook. I'll get that lined up as well. Earlier. A mosaic he did, because he was famous for doing mosaics. And there's a famous book cover that he did. And I'm sure that was in the Substack article on the other stream. As I scroll down. You can see that's a mosaic there. I'll take the other thing off the screen, sorry. Yeah, but that's all made out of little tiny tiles, and that's him stood there with the two guys. His back's to the camera, like. But yeah, that's a mosaic that he did somewhere. So that's one example of his art. And earlier in that interview, in fact, if I go back to that. That's on the screen, won't it?
Okay, down to business. Let's see. How did you get started in art?
No, it is on the screen. It's all right. There you go. That's one of his paintings there. And then in a minute he moves that.
Add pencils were cheap.
This was at SAC
No.
or at Winans?
High school.
Oh,
Right.
in high school.
I started my art career as commercial art. That's how I know so much about commercial.
You weren't one of those Highland boys, were you? Highland High? How about Jeff? Not a Jeff boy. All right.
That's a
Where?
good board on the table, yeah.
You were a Broadway boy.
Oh, God, yeah. And how?
Yeah.
So you got some pencils and you started sketching. And your teacher said, you've got some talent.
Oh, they didn't.
So you said,
It didn't matter to me what the teacher said. Hey,
what year was this? About the
46, 47.
46, you grabbed some pencils and you started
That's
sketching.
interesting.
Decided I was going to be an artist.
And you decided you were going to be an artist.
Looks like a good idea. A lot of times you don't have to work outside.
It's a good life.
Yeah. Clutter kind of like goes with it.
Now, who was your first inspiration?
And Salvador Dali.
Salvador Dali.
Yep.
Surrealistic.
Yep. I like Picasso too.
Like Picasso. So you became aware of them when you were in high school?
Oh no, they were featured a lot in the magazines. It wasn't like I saw them personally. I saw their work. I like, especially like Pablo Picasso's style.
Cubism.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got into painting. When did you get interested in painting? That was in college.
This is it. So yeah, just skip to the bit where you zoom right in on the paintings. There you go. Found it.
Now I see the two doves.
Whoa, what happened there?
Tell me about that painting.
That's a knockoff of a Byzantine mosaic from Ravenna, from the tomb, the alleged tomb of Princess, what's her name?
Oh, dead now.
That's oil?
Oh yeah, most of the artists I know are dead now.
When did you start on that painting?
I have no idea. I hope that made sense.
Oh, yeah. Now see a house.
Then I'm Chelsea though.
There's a street light.
House.
Tell me about that one.
Well, that's a little bit fog, a little bit impressionist, a little bit surreal, and just a little bit out of whack.
Where's this house located? Is this from memory or from a real house?
It's a real house.
It's a real house.
This is the site of the surrender of Kos, less than perfecto Kos, surrendered to the incident that led to the Alamo.
And this is an oil painting?
Mm-hmm. And through here, you see the Arneson River Theater and the Riverwalk.
I've seen that house before.
Of
I've been there.
course you
How
have.
many times have I been through that portal?
Many a time. Without even knowing what that building there
Oh,
was.
Ross and then Council. Yeah.
It should be as important as the Alamo. But to the victors go the spoils. And who's up on top today will be on bottom tomorrow.
Yeah, like I say, there's loads of stuff. Well, there's about 3 videos. Yeah, there's that puppets one, and there's another one that's from later. And you can find his obituary online, which tells you he was actually in the Air Force, and he was a cryptographer while he was in the Air Force. Yeah. Don't know why my desk is so wobbly. It must be on something. Hopefully the camera won't wobble too much. Yeah. Yeah, You don't like his accent? No. Yeah. Yeah. Better artist displaying that pretty much every coffee shop ever. Yeah, he came from Texas and he moved back to Texas and he's being interviewed in Texas there and he ended up living in Texas again. Yeah, a Texan artist. So that's another interesting thing. Yeah, so him and Tex might have bonded over that, obviously. And they were both called Charles too. So yeah, if they did meet, that would be interesting. And I think because though I'm not convinced he necessarily had a part in brainwashing Tex. I can believe that they sold and bought drugs off each other. Hmm. Yeah, he's an artist though, isn't he? Yeah. Yeah, I liked his paintings and I found other examples of his paintings as well. Yeah, he did better paintings than the ones that you see there as well, He did a lot of art. And yeah, he illustrated the cover of a book. In the other articles, in the other streams that I did about him, in that Substack article, it shows a few of the other illustrations he did, yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's weird how many Charlies there are in this story, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of examples of his stuff, yeah. And apparently he did light shows as well. And he worked with the Grateful Dead and Frank Zappa and people like that. I read in other places. It's crazy, yeah. Hmm. Too many Charlies, yeah. 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 Not everyone in Texas looks like they're from Saskatchewan, James, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the only thing. That's the thing as well. So, like, yeah. Well, no, not even Brussels. James said she saw them. I don't think Brussels saw them. Only James did. But Brussels was more interested in him possibly doing that Project Resistance thing. Did you see that bit, Sam? Were you here when I read that out? But yeah, Project Resistance was all about collecting newspaper clippings, basically, of the alternative press, and so he might have been there monitoring because James had her own newspaper, didn't she? A subversive newspaper that we brought up in the last stream. Yeah. No, I don't think it was Charlie, the woman she was dating. It was someone with a man's name, but it wasn't Charlie, no. But yeah, it is weird how many people show up. Yeah. Point, yeah, look, I was watching the video, so I couldn't say anything. Time I put it on the screen though, didn't I? But yeah, apparently there was a mosaic at the ranch, so that's interesting because that is one of the things he was famous for, doing mosaics. So I wonder if he did. Yeah. And Bugliosi was interested in trying to find it, apparently. Yeah, that's interesting. Because yeah, the only thing is that this woman said she saw the Manson family, some of the girls and Tex going into the house on a few occasions. But yeah, that's the only thing. And Squeaky said she'd never heard of him, and Susan said she had been there to Paul Krasner once in prison, but then took it back later. Said she didn't remember ever meeting him. So yeah, yeah. People don't like his art then. Yeah. I don't know. I saw other paintings that were better than what you saw in that stream, that video. And the mosaics are impressive. That massive mosaic. So looking at it like that doesn't really do it justice. You have to see the detail of it. But yeah, he did do some stuff that was kind of surrealist looking as well. Yeah. And like I say, light shows, but there would have to be like footage of that, wouldn't there? I don't think there is any footage of it, but he did light shows apparently for the Grateful Dead and people like that. And there is the footage of him, the photo of him in the log cabin, isn't there? Not while Frank Zappa had it though, while someone else had it. So in his obituary, it says a few of the people he was involved with, the bands he was involved with too. I should have got his obituary ready to show. I think it's in the links for the first stream. If you watch it, if you've watched parts 1, 2, and 3, it's in the links in the part 1 stream. But yeah, loads of links to the music industry as well. So it makes it another reason that you might have met the Manson family, because they were doing music, weren't they? Obviously. Yeah, too lazy to do art, yeah. Oh, there's all different forms of art, isn't there? You can do conceptual art and stuff like that. But like, it's an old, yeah, you get to shout like it's mother of pearl. It's really nice, an old petrol lighter. Yeah, oh, sorry, Henry Dodger. I'll have to look him up. Is he good? Huh. Yeah, that's it. Like I say, I don't know many people who paint anymore. Yeah, I think it is. It's in that style anyway, isn't it? I don't know how far back it actually goes. It's an old vintage one. Yeah. The flapper did coke off that lighter in the 20s, yeah. It's not flat enough, I don't think. Wouldn't be useful. It runs out of petrol really quickly, so it's not good for very long. Yeah, the black and white photography of unattractive naked people, yeah. Because you just had to, take photos of whoever would let you, didn't you, in them days? Yeah, they couldn't pick and choose, so yeah, the people probably weren't very attractive a lot of the time, were they? The old pornography. The old people who have spoken to me who claim to have the old Hollywood porn, perhaps the pictures. Apparently it is available out there. Yeah, I should read this out as well, because I think this has more detail. I can only be a mirror. Yeah, he says some strange things in this as well. One man's mirror may be another man's shattered prison, and so it is with Charles Francis Winans, one-man exhibit at the Aardvark. The young and undeniably talented artist paints the world as he sees it, a world caught up in the myths and fantasies of inane untruths. I can only be a mirror, he says. I'm a journalist in a visual field. What I paint is what is being exerted on me from without. The reflections in Winans' mirror can be harsh, bold, and brassy in a larger-than-life portraits that are aggressively sexual. Then the mirror shifts, and he draws with great tenderness and restraint. His smaller pen and ink drawings seem to come in this category. His draftsmanship is outstanding, if one can use such a mechanical word for drawings that are highly original and evocative. Whether or not the overall exhibit comes off depends upon how closely the viewer's eye matches Winans. Out, as I said, I'm just a mirror. Winans and his wife Carolyn, who is the model for several of his paintings, live with their 5 children in Pacific Grove. And that picture of him there, he's holding his daughter with just a mirror. He says that about just a mirror. And he considers himself very non-military. Strange that he mentioned that, isn't it? Yeah. He said he felt he was very non-military. So yeah, well, I've been going for 50 minutes now. Got 42 people here though. Thank you for coming, everyone. Like I say, I know these ones are not as popular as the ones that are blatantly about Manson, but yeah, this is still interesting as well. Yeah, that's it. They're both from Texas, both into drugs. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, Manson. Yeah, said that, didn't he? Yeah, sounds very Manson-esque. Yeah. Change the name so they'd be first in the phone book. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, reflecting is projecting, isn't it? Yeah, really. And also, psychopaths do something called mirroring, don't they? Well, they reflect your own facial expressions back at you because they don't really experience the same emotions, so they just imitate your emotions back at you. And it's called mirroring. So someone's a psychopath. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, projections are for narcissistic manipulation and abuse, yeah. Yeah, it was interesting they made that video puppets as well, wasn't it? They probably just did that to provoke a reaction, though, didn't they? Because of the rumours, the MK Ultra rumours about him. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. The White Lines song, yeah. I was watching, I found the video to that. I was watching it the other day. It's a good song. Yeah. 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 All people mirror. Well, no, not everyone mirrors. Not everyone has to. You're supposed to feel your own emotions, aren't you? Be able to generate your own emotions. You shouldn't have to mirror. Yeah. What, Duran? This is the Duran version. Did Duran do White Lines? I don't know. No, the original one. Yeah. Was he called Grandmaster Flash or something like that? He was called, wasn't he? What, did Duran cover it? I don't remember Duran doing it. I only remember the Grandmaster Flash version, yeah. Maybe, yeah, it wasn't a big hit. Or I was probably just too young when it came out. I didn't really, I was probably too young for them. Because, yeah, I remember it was used in a film, wasn't it? There was obviously, yeah, I'm sure it was used in a film. That's how I originally heard it. Yeah. For Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones what? Hmm. I think Landslide's about cocaine, yeah. Well, she did have a big problem with cocaine, apparently, didn't she? So, yeah. Yeah. Everyone was saying, yeah, because it was massive, wasn't it, in the 80s, cocaine, yeah. Yeah. Hello, Frankie. How are you? Glad you caught it while I was still on the first stream. Oh, I like my hair, thank you. And he's cutting again. Yeah. It's quite late tonight. It's alright though, isn't it? That was an actress called Daniela Westbrook, wasn't it? I don't know what, she had her nose reconstructed as well, though. Stevie Nicks. Yeah. Pour Some Sugar on Me is about crack, is it? What? Most people think it's about sex, yeah. The video suggests it's about sex, doesn't it? Yeah. All the stories about Stevie Nicks doing cocaine in different ways after her nose coating. I won't put them on the screen. Poor Stevie Nicks. Then she ended up hooked on downers, didn't she? And Ozzy Osbourne went crazy on cocaine and ended up doing like a year in prison, didn't he? After he tried to kill his wife. Yeah. Yeah. God, Mick Taylor did the same thing. His nose disintegrated. Yeah, we had an actress called Daniela Westbrook who, oh God, yeah, Stevie Nicks. Daniela Westbrook and her nose, yeah, the bit in the middle of her nose went and she couldn't afford to get the surgery. So, the paparazzi got pictures of her without it. And they refused to do the surgery on her for ages because she was still doing cocaine. Well, she was turning up to have the surgery and they were finding the cocaine residue still in her nostrils where she'd just done it, Yeah, the septum, that's the bit of the nose, isn't it? Yeah, and Stevie Nicks, ended up addicted to Valium, and so did Ozzy Osbourne. That's why Ozzy Osbourne was so sedated, because that was what they did to cokeheads for some reason in them days when they came off cocaine. In the 80s, the solution seemed to be to whack them out with loads of downers. get them too stoned to be able to get up to go and score cocaine, I suppose, wasn't it? Yeah. 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 Yeah, liver probably did get bloated from all the bentos, yeah. Yeah, I know, in that period in the music videos, like, yeah, she's very sort of stood in the background, isn't she, in that, and she wasn't very in motion. And the songs, the other woman, what she called, I forget her name, the other woman in Fleetwood Mac, she sang the lead on the songs more, didn't she, in that, during that period. Yeah, Valium is hard to kick, yeah. Oh, hi there, Beckham. I'm glad I stayed streaming for longer, so yeah, more people caught it while I was on. She believed Manson was working for the CIA, helping them to distribute LSD. That's the only thing I've ever thought that they possibly could have been doing, was helping distribute the LSD. And Kremwinkle would know about that, wouldn't she? And the Mendocino thing. You know, she's one of the others alive who might know something about that, about distributing LSD, because that was what they got done for in Mendocino, wasn't it? Giving LSD to minors. And, you know, Manson always had a plentiful supply of LSD, apparently, didn't he? So I wonder, yeah, if they were caught up in that. But yeah, Candace Owen said that she has read Chaos and continues to look into Manson. Yeah. The witches and their LSD handouts to underagers. Yeah, Mama Cass's came from Timothy Leary. She went to Millbrook and got it directly from Timothy Leary. It was Xandos LSD. The bottle of LSD she had was marked Xandos. And that big island holiday that the mamas and papas went on just before they got famous, and where they wrote a lot of their songs, Mama Cass turned up with a bottle of LSD. She lost all her luggage and all her money and everything, except the bottle of LSD, because she was carrying it in her bra. And she turned out with a bottle of LSD for that trip. I read it all out in the thing about her drug use, the stream about her drug use. Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm glad people do appreciate it, yeah. Oh, shit, where was Millbrook? I can't remember. I think, wasn't Millbrook closer to LA? I can't remember where bloody Millbrook was. Can't be asked to Google it now. I'm right near the end of the show. But yeah, I think it was closer to LA than San Francisco, but I could be wrong. Pretty make myself look stupid now. But yeah, I can't remember. But no, I'm pretty sure Millbrook was closer to LA. Yeah, that's where Mama Cass got her LSD from. Yeah, so New York then. Mama Cass got her LSD from. Yeah, Millbrook was in New York. But yeah, in Mama Cass's biography, it says she got a bottle of LSD from Timothy Leary going to Millbrook. And she gave them acid every morning, like a sacrament of the holiday. So yeah, that sounds pretty strange as well. People question whether the mamas and papas were spooked, you know. Mama Cass did that. She dosed them all with LSD every day. I've done shorts and that, yeah. And he believes that too about the LSD distribution. And that he was in some kind of government witness protection program, maybe. I don't know about that. And also, in the distributing LSD, I don't know if they would have known that they were doing it for the government, if you know what I mean. They would have just thought they were selling it for, you know, dealers. It would have been through front people. It wouldn't have been, like, officially for the CIA. Well, they wouldn't have known it was the CIA. But I can believe they got caught up in that, because they set lots of people up to distribute LSD, didn't they? Obviously, the merry pranksters and all that were sent out. It was going on a lot around that time. It mixed with speed. Well, there was STP, wasn't there? And when I was reading the penalty phase of the trial, both Leslie and Susan said that they had heard that Tex was on STP the night of the murders, and the LaBiancas the next night, that he had taken the drug STP, which is speed mixed with amphetamines, isn't it? But no, but they think that they're talking about the Manson family just distributing straight LSD, aren't they? And there's all this about Charlie supposed to have not liked speed, but I don't believe that he differentiated between the pills. I think he still took the speed pills. He probably knew the powder was bad, yeah, but didn't think the yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, Owsley Stanley was a big LSD manufacturer, and he was connected to the Grateful Dead. He did something for them, but was he just there to distribute the LSD? Probably. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Puff the Magic Dragon, yeah. Was it LSD nightmare or something, really, wasn't it? They just sold it as a children's song. Yeah, the Brotherhood of Eternal Love. That was Timothy Leary and Elsie Stanley and all that, wasn't it? Yeah. I say I'm going to get into all this when I get into talking about Michael Hollingshead and all the rest of it, because yeah, it's amazing how it all started with a guy from the UK. He was actually the first person to give Timothy Leary LSD, because if you look at Timothy Leary, he started out just taking mushrooms, and he wasn't into synthetic drugs. In fact, he wasn't into drugs at all before he started taking mushrooms. But then he got convinced to take LSD, and he got into other drugs. Then, basically, yeah. Hmm. Huh. Yeah, that's it. Well, the pills, Linda Kasabian had been prescribed them, hadn't she? Apparently. And that was probably what Roman Polanski was sending back to Frykowski, they reckon, methadone pills, because they were easier to get in London, and they could sell them in Hollywood. And yeah, I reckon. And when Tex describes the bag of drugs that Charlie used to offer around as well, he names a lot of different amphetamine pills being in that bag as well. So Charlie did give out the speed pills. He just didn't like them doing the powder, but he didn't realise that it was the same stuff. Doing the pills, basically, you know what I mean? He didn't differentiate. I think he looked like he burned himself out on speed. I don't think he was anti-speed at all. He just didn't like the stuff that the bikers were making. Yeah, Crank messed up the Haight-Ashbury scene. Heron gave people the superflu and track miles. Yeah, that was what Charlie was against. Yeah, he just didn't want people to get into that, did he? I think. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, well, I have my suspicions about Leary now. I think Leary was, out of all of them, was one of the only ones that was aware of what was really going on. I think a lot of them were just used. They thought that they were actually, doing good, studying the LSD and distributing the LSD. They didn't know. But their research was being stolen by the CIA. But I think Timothy Leary, out of all of them, did know what was happening. Yeah. Yeah. At 62 now. About 10 years ago, you were offered a drop of oil on your tongue on Christmas Eve. It was in the fridge at your friend's house. He was a psychiatrist. Oh, you didn't do it. You did it in the 70s. Yeah, well, a lot of the bikers were ex-military, like straight out of the military, weren't they? So I think a lot of them probably were some kind of undercover agents or whatever, yeah. It's crazy when you look into it. You know, like they use them like militants to do stuff that they couldn't do legally. You know, to get them to do the illegal stuff for them. And that Bill Littler, that seems like that's sort of what he was. He was hired like a mercenary. Was what he claimed to his kids, basically. Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, right. Well, this has been going for over an hour now, so I'm going to end this. But yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. And I'll do an after show. Just give me a minute to go make another cup of tea and stretch my legs. And yeah, I'll do an after show for a bit longer. Yes, but yeah, I'll end this one now. And it'll be back up tomorrow when I've edited it down. Thanks for coming, everyone. And I'll see you next week. Not sure what I'll be doing yet, but yeah, the next Sunday. There'll probably be like maybe fewer streams for a little while. So yeah, make sure you watch my old videos on the playback, because yeah, my views drop when I do less streams. So yeah, really helps out. Thanks everyone. Like I say, like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks, yeah, and I'll see you in 5 minutes or next week. Good night.